Jaga. Says we're live.
Yay!
I'm gonna go peek real quick just to make sure. Yeah, there's definitely something going on with Facebook.
Yeah, it was being really, really weird, really slow.
It's so funny. It's like the weirdest thing about Facebook, and I talk with this a lot about other people who earn income off Facebook. There's like no recourse. Like,
yeah,
the most insane thing could happen and there's nothing. Like, I mean, I know people that have went from like paying for their house, their whole livelihood is this, and then like the next day they're like, and you're done.
Look, I was on a call yesterday with I work in tourism, and I was talking to a city, and we're trying to do some analytics for them, and they were saying all the troubles that they've had with Facebook. They're like, we'd love to just do something different, but there's really no option,
Well, and it's interesting because like so many people are like, just go on TikTok or just use, and I don't know if it's my age or what, but I feel like I worked so hard to build this family on Facebook. Like, this is like a family to me. Like, these are my people, and I don't want to go to TikTok. Like, I don't want to start over.
Yeah. Well, on TikTok, I think like you're more interactive this way, right? Because on TikTok is like these snippets of things.
Yes.
So I don't know.
It's different. And I guess that just shows that like our younger generations are like, we need short pieces of content. Like, we'll talk to you if it's for 7 seconds. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Which is sad too, right? In some ways, you can see it when I'm talking to my, older boys. It's like snippets.
Well, it's the same thing with reading. So before we obviously introduced you and everything, but like, I just didn't know that like people don't read anymore. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely changed. And I read less because I have kids, but like there's like a whole study of how people like just are like, I'd rather just view my content now. I don't want to read it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really sad.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us who you are and where you are and a little bit about your life.
Okay. So my name's Cindy Decker. I am in Dripping Springs, Texas. So for those of you not familiar with Texas, I am on the western side of Austin, about 35 minutes outside of Austin, in what is called the Texas Hill Country. So it's a beautiful area. If anybody wants to come visit, we have 11 breweries within a 5 to 10 mile radius. So, come on down. And I have 3 boys. I am married to Josh. And my 3 boys, my oldest is 21. He'll be 22 next month, which I'm not sure I can handle that. Yeah. So he's in college. I have an 18-year-old headed to college in the fall. And then I have Liam. So I have the opposite of what you had, right?
Yep. You have Adrian. You have the Adrian.
I have the Adrian effect. I have older, neurotypical kids, running out of this house as fast as they possibly can, coming back on time at times. And then I have the 11-year-old on the autism spectrum. Liam was diagnosed at 4, and he is quite the character. As you said on the last live, him and Cooper have the same build body type. I mean, I think I told you this one time, but there was a long time ago, we went to the beach and I took a picture of us together, and I have white hair. A lot of it is colored, but I have white hair. And he, and somebody was like, oh, I didn't know that was Cooper's mom. And then I met your mom, and I'm like, okay, I can see why they say that now, but ouch.
They thought you were my mom?
They thought I was grandma. They were like, oh, look at Cooper with his grandma, but it was Liam with me. So yes, they look a lot alike. They look a lot alike.
Yeah. I will, like, when I'm scrolling, there have still to this day been numerous times where I'm like, I didn't know Cooper did that. I didn't know he went there. Like,
yeah, I do that. I think that's why I pause at your post all the time, because I see Cooper and I'm like, oh, that's not Liam.
Yeah. Okay. So funny. Okay, so tell us about the beginning. Tell us about Liam from the beginning.
Yeah. So Liam, he was the baby after 10 years. Well, there's 10 years and 7 years between them. So definitely the baby. The boys were 7 or 11 and 7. And normal birth. Everything was fine. Had no clue what was happening until he was about 2. We started having problems at daycares.
Okay.
He was kicked out of almost 8 daycares. We would try one and it wouldn't work, and we would try another, and that was he would
And
learn
was
to
he
bite.
saying words?
He was not saying words until about 3.
Okay.
And I would talk to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was like, "Oh, he's the baby. Oh, he's a boy. Oh, his brothers are talking for him. Oh, you're babying him,"
Yes,
And
yes.
so here I am, that mom going, "Well, I don't think I'm raising him any different, but maybe."
Same.
Right. Okay. Maybe I am. Sure. And so we went through that. The pediatrician was like, "We're not going to talk about he's like, "We're not even talking about ADHD." And Liam was like busy. I mean, darted. He was an eloper like I've never seen before. I mean, literally like run out of schools and daycares and on the streets, and so scary. And we didn't know what autism was, had no clue.
Yep.
So the pediatrician was like, "We're not going to talk to you till he's 6. I'm like, "He's not going to make it to 6. I'm not going to make it to 6.
6? I've never heard that before.
6. I'm not going to talk to you about it till he's 6. I was like, "Oh." So a friend of mine on a football field, when Liam would dart out into the middle of the football play, was awesome. That she grabbed me and she goes, "You need to go see my pediatrician and have him evaluated for autism." And I was like, I was going to go have him evaluated for ADHD, but okay. So we went to our pediatrician, and a 15-minute evaluation. The pediatrician was like, Liam's climbing all over me, flipping lights on and off, crawling underneath the table. I mean, like it was the longest.
Crazy though, like how. So I've sat in this seat and done this conversation with so many people, right? And it's typically always like the first doctor, the first point is like, "Don't worry, calm down," right? And then the next part of the story is always like next person's like, "Okay,
the extreme.
10 minutes in, here we go."
Yeah, within 10 minutes, the pediatrician was like, "I'm sending you in for an evaluation. This is what they're going to look for. And don't be afraid." He said, "Don't be afraid when they tell you it's autism." And those words, I can hear him saying them. I can see the look on his face. Like I can see the room. It's like this burned image into my brain of him saying that. And I was like, "Don't be afraid if he says, what are you talking about?" So we went, we had to wait, and we got an evaluation like 6 months later. And she evaluated ADHD, possible autism, and sent us on to a neurologist for further evaluations.
Okay.
We didn't get into the neurologist until the following December. So at this point, he's 4. He turned 4 in March. We started at age 3. And by December of that year, I remember, I'll tell you this, but we got a call from the neurologist in November saying, "Oh, we've got to move your appointment in December." And I'm like, "No, you don't."
Nope.
No. So I was really ugly, lost my little mind on the phone. And she says, "Let me call you back." And she called me back. She goes, "Can you come in tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yep, I sure can." So we went in the next day. He talked to me. We actually started ADHD medications, just some guanfacine, and kind of moved on. And he says, "I'm going to set you up for evaluation in 3 months." And I canceled the evaluation because the medication seemed to like somewhat help. We were starting to hear more words. We called him Dutchy. His language wasn't great. At this point, we were starting preschool. With the first evaluation, we were starting a preschool program and with services. So I was like, "You know what?
We're okay.
I'm not doing that evaluation. We're okay. We're fine." And so I canceled it twice. And on a follow-up visit, the neurologist was like, "So Miss Tucker, you keep canceling this appointment." And I'm like, "I don't think we need it. I think we're fine.
We're fine here.
I've seen all the movies. I've watched this autism thing on TV. We're good. I'm good."
Oh, I love it.
He's like, "Okay, well, just for, grins, we're going to do the evaluation and you do it the way you want." I'm like, "Fine." So we went in to the evaluation, and sure enough, I can picture, that's another one of those moments that's ingrained in your mind, like she's reading the document and they're reading this report. And the minute they say your child has autism, everything else is like Charlie Brown's teacher from there. Like I have no idea what else the report said. And they hand you a piece of paper with like 50 resources and 20 ABA therapists and occupational therapists and speech therapists and all these things. And they're like, "Call them."
so hard.
I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, what do I do with this?
I have a friend who's, I think, starting the journey and still in a little bit of denial. But
Yeah.
she's communicating with me. And it's so funny to see yourself in another person because like when we chatted about it, she's like, but it's not autism. And then like when, and maybe it's not, but it probably is. And, when people say they're sorry, that can be in a very offensive thing to people to say that. But my heart breaks because I know the journey she's going to have for a while. Like, I wish I could like scoop her up and be like, let me tell you everything to do and there'll be no wait lists and it'll just magically work, because it's not like that. Like, I know, and we can all say that for the majority, it's going to be an uphill climb.
And you know what's sad about that, Kate, is that it shouldn't be that way.
No,
right?
and it still is.
Like that if you it still is, and it's not like that if your child has another disability, or if your child is diabetic, right? They immediately get you into the doctor, you get this, and you have it and you go through the steps. And still with autism, but I think it's because they're all so different. Like Liam is verbal. He has some very good choice words that he loves to use that get him in trouble all the time.
Does he swear?
Oh, all the time.
Okay, so I was just talking with my mother-in-law yesterday about Peyton, Cooper's little friend.
Yeah, she's adorable.
And she is like the cutest human you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And she can swear like a sailor. And my mother-in-law's like, no way. And I'm like, I think it's kind of a common theme.
Yeah.
The swearing.
And I'll tell you what, it gets on my nerves. And it's funny, but that's the thing. You can't laugh about it.
No.
Right? Or you're in public and he'll tell somebody off in a very short-tempered manner. And you're like, and you always get that look of what's wrong with your kid.
I know. So tell us about him now. So he's 11?
He's 11 years old. He started in public school, went to a small preschool program with the school district, went into regular gen ed kindergarten again because he was verbal.
He did. Okay.
Yeah. So he was in a regular classroom with support. That aide had 5 kids on various ends of the spectrum in that kindergarten classroom. So 22 kids and Liam. And it just was the worst year. I remember one time the counselor called and said, Miss Decker, today, just so you know, Liam eloped. They had a lot of elopement issues. He would leave the school, cross the street, go to somebody's house, just disappear. And one of the elopement issues, he went and hid in the science lab because he liked the skeleton in there, and he called him Bob. So he went and hung out with Bob. And when he left, they saw a bulge in his backpack. And
a what?
A bulge, like a big bulge in his backpack. And they were trying to figure out what's going on. And so he had stolen Bob's head and was going to bring Bob home.
That's amazing.
So it was great. And so that was kindergarten because of all the challenges we had. I mean, he would try and escape out of the cafeteria by hitting somebody in the head. Like he would have his lunch and he'd go up and put his tray away and then he'd bop somebody on the head. And what that got him into the principal's office for the afternoon where it was quiet and he would color and there was nothing requested of him.
I tell every parent, whether they want to hear it or not, that you'll know by kindergarten.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting in that in between, we have the diagnosis, but we don't really know the level of need. We don't know all the different things. Kindergarten will be the most telling year because there are already social norms that are required in kindergarten that are instinctual, that like my 4 and 2-year-old can do. My 4-year-old and 2-year-old can sit for circle time.
Yeah.
Cooper could not sit for it. So those like little things like walking down the hallway, staying attentive, like kindergarten's the year.
So. Yeah. Circle time was the trigger for Liam. I mean, if there was ever a behavior, circle time. That's when it would happen. And I'm like, how can you people not figure this out?
I know.
So as you get into this process, you learn, right? By first grade, they put him into a behavior program. We had a terrible 9 weeks in the behavior program. And we went to the school district and said, this is not for Liam. We're not supposed to be here. Let's work through this. You've got to have other kids like Liam. He can't be the only one. So we built.
It sure feels like that, doesn't it?
It absolutely feels that way. And I think I had found you that year
Okay.
as he was coming out of the behavior program and going into, we were building his own program where they were piloting 5 boys on the spectrum with a teacher and 2 aides in a classroom, specialized with ABA supports
Oh,
in the
that
school
sounds
district.
cool.
Yeah. So we built that program in the school district, and it's still there today. But that's when I found you, because a friend of mine sent me an article that you wrote to Jamie. It was a letter to Jamie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're not the, like, something about you're not the woman he married.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, it was a picture of us before we were married. I was in a green dress.
Yes, yes. And so I read the article and I was like, there's got to be people like us. There's got to be kids like this. I don't understand.
Where are
And
the people? Where are the people?
where are they? Who are they? And so she sent me that article. It took me, Kate, a week to read that article, because
Oh, I should
every time
find
I
that.
would read it out loud, you should repost it. I
I will.
would read it out loud to my husband because we commuted together, and I would start sobbing so uncontrollably. I had to stop reading. I was like, I can't. And I put it away. It took me a week to get through the article. And so then when I found you, and immediately, like, I didn't even glance, immediately joined Coop Strips, and I found my people. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I was seeing all the same challenges and the same behaviors and the same, even with Cooper, I was seeing the exact same person, just
Mhm.
speaking and non-speaking, right?
Did you have anyone in your life at that time that had a child on the spectrum? See, we didn't
Nope.
either. And the thing that's people outside our world don't know, I think, is even when your child starts like the special education services, whatever that
Mhm,
looks like,
mhm.
you're not immediately connected with the other 4 kids in the class.
Yeah,
And your kids aren't going to tell you about their new friend. So like still today, it's so hard to meet other people.
yeah, yeah. I still don't know the families in his room, and
Oh, me either.
with Liam, so we moved to Dripping Springs last year. We were in Houston in that same program the whole time, and things were going great. He was going into 5th grade, and we moved to Austin. And it was timing because his teacher was leaving, the principal was leaving. And I always say the principal at the school makes the school for special ed. If you have a bad principal, forget your special ed program. I don't care how good the teacher is, they won't make it. The special
And
ed
I
program.
didn't know that until this year. We have a mutual friend, Amanda DeLuca, who does
Yeah.
IEP work. And I said to her, I'm like, why are the principals so involved in Cooper's stuff? And she told exactly what you just said. They set the tone for the school.
They set the tone. If
Yep.
your principal's good with special ed, it's great. If she's not, you're doomed.
Yep.
So we did that. So we moved here. Within 6 weeks, they kept pushing him into gen ed. And gen ed,
Why?
it was a program where they could evolve him into a gen ed with services, and they
Okay.
were pushing him too fast, too far. He hadn't been there, and we had a very similar situation to what you had this year, almost the exact same situation, and it got really ugly. And immediately, it was right before the Moon Beach retreat last year, is why I didn't go,
Yep.
because it happened on like a Thursday, and I was heading out for the Moon Beach retreat the next morning. So I didn't end up going. I called Amanda DeLuca. I think she was at your house actually when I called her, and Amy Schleter, and just sobbed. This is happening. I don't know what to do. We just met with the school, and they literally just slid a brochure across the table and said, we want you to look at this because this is where we're going to place Liam out of district in this private program. And I was like, no, we're not. No, we're not.
So for context, so Cindy and I had a very similar situation with our kids within the school district where I keep going back to is it really felt like Cooper just wasn't liked. And it just was in no way saying that I don't want to double negative this, but he does have challenges. He has very unique challenges and can be just drive you bonkers, pull your hair out kind of kid.
Yeah.
But if his supports are in place and he's getting what he needs, that doesn't happen. And so that's the hard part being the parent is like, well, why did this happen?
Right.
What wasn't? And then I really just kind of like fell into this place where I'm like, I just think everyone hates him and they're afraid of him. And there is nothing worse than that feeling.
The feeling of them being afraid of him is I think that's the one that really hurts.
Well, because so we had and I think I shared this with you. So through like a mutual friend and gossip that happens, we heard that there was a long-term sub and she refused to teach Cooper. And her exact words were, I just let him do whatever he wants because I've heard about him. And that, I'm telling you, I will carry that to my grave.
Yeah. Again, it's those little moments that get seared into your brain that you will forever remember. And you can hear them verbatim almost whenever it happens. So we are now in a good place. Liam is in a great out of district program.
And did you want to go? Like, so talk a little about that because I'm reluctant to change you.
I did not want to go. I did not want to go. And I'll tell you this, it's an hour away. So he gets on a bus for an hour each way.
Goodness. Okay.
It's him and one other little boy. They're the same age. But Kate, it has been our saving grace. Like he's thrived in that program. He's done well. It is one-on-one. It is 2 teachers, 6 aides, 8 kids in the classroom, various degrees of disability. He's made friends that are non-speaking. He's made friends that are, like him, like they're all in the same mix, working at their own pace, working on their own stuff. Liam struggles with reading. He reads at a 1st grade level, and this is the first year he's even started reading.
Yay!
6th grade, yeah. So he can read things now, which was a huge win for us. And it has been a really, really great blessing. And, extended school year, this in the summer was like 9 to 12, 3 weeks here, 2 weeks there, half on and off. His extended school year is 6 solid weeks. He gets a week off in June, a week off in July, 1 week off in August, and it's 9 to 3.
Do you have to pay for that?
And he's Monday to Friday. Nope.
How does your district, or how do they have money? I guess I always hear you can't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like there's no money to pay us. Why?
They don't have any money. But here's the thing about it. When people tell you they don't have any money, they have money. They have money. They're just trying to reallocate things all over the place. But the truth is if they can't offer the services, and I say this to people because I've learned this, right? I've learned 2 things in our journey. One, we're the experts. I know more about Liam than anybody else knows about Liam, neurologist included, although he knows more of the medical terms. But usually you know more.
Yep.
And on the education, I was born and raised in Mexico. I don't know if you knew that about me.
No.
I was born and raised in Mexico. My family's from Mexico. My parents are from Mexico City. My family now lives here. But this FAPE, right? Free, appropriate public education is an American right that nobody else.
Oh, that gives me goosebumps. Oh my gosh.
It is a free education. If they can't provide it, they have to provide it. They have to take care of our kids. I still remember a family member telling me years ago when we first were getting Liam diagnosed, saying, don't do it. Don't diagnose him because the school system will leave him behind.
I was told similar things to that.
And I thought, why? And they don't have to leave him behind. They have to move him on, through the system at his rate, meet him where he's at, teach him what he can learn. And now the goal is, okay, now what am I going to do when he falls off of services, right? So I'm already thinking, okay, he's 11. I have 11 years to build a program that furthers him.
We talked about this yesterday.
The next step. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a day program. I don't know if it's that school that you went to in California or in Florida. I don't know what it is, but that's what we're building. That's the next step because we've got to be able to offer our kids that education, that next step.
So what do you think and Liam's future looks like? Do you think he'll be able to live independently?
We have, here in Dripping Springs, we have land. And so my husband and I have a very clear picture that we will build a tiny home. Very similar to like Alex, he'll live near us or with us, but independently in his space.
In his own way. Yep.
Yeah. Because I think it's important for him to have his space, find his way. I think he'll have some sort of a job. I think he may work, he loves groceries. He loves going to the grocery store, and he doesn't love going to the grocery store. Let me correct that. He hates leaving the house, but he does like the concept of, swiping the groceries. So I think, okay, maybe he could hold a job down in a grocery where he's the checker, or, something to that effect, where he could have some income. And then he'll have a tiny home that we'll build for him, and he'll get to come home to, because that's the goal.
So it just happened 2 days ago. This is how I asked Amanda DeLuca, it's like,
Yeah.
I want to bring 100 moms to a camp. Well, I'm going to bring 100 moms to a camp. I'm very impulsive in my ideas.
Yeah.
I'm going to build a group home.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. And I have a long time. So, because Cooper's 12. And here's the funny sentence that I'll say. I want to build a group home for families and children like Cooper, but I don't want him to ever have to live there because I want him to be with me. So that's still where I'm at. Right. Yeah. But so yesterday I spent the day with my mother-in-law and her best friend. They're both in their late 70s, mid 70s. Mm-hmm. And they were telling me that there's this, I have to Google it when I get off here, dementia setting right here in the Twin Cities where they have the grocery store and the salon and the gas station, and it's all safe.
Encompassing.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I was thinking when you said that, I don't think Cooper could run a register, but I bet Liam could. Like that could be something. He could be very happy in a setting like that, have his own house. And I don't know, I'm kind of getting jazzed by it.
What gave me the idea is back in May, my 18-year-old graduated. He graduated in December, but we made him walk, and he hated me every second for it. But I was like, you're walking.
Uh-huh. So it's my right. I birthed you.
Yeah. I'm like, I birthed you. You're getting on a cap and gown. I don't care what happens. Off you go. Off you go. And we walked into the stadium, and we went with Liam, and I was really nervous. It was an open stadium, but I was still really nervous about Liam being there. And so we had all of the supports, in place. Grandma was with us. We had 2 cars. Like, we had it all laid out. This is what can happen if this happens. We knew what was happening. So we went, we sat down on the edge, closer away from the stage, closer to the exit, brought food, had money for the snacks, all the things. Yep. And we sat down, and there was a lady in front of me, and there was a 28-year-old man in front of me. And you could just tell, by body movements. I'm like, oh, this guy's on the spectrum. And, Liam was being very vocal in that he does stim vocally. He hums, he makes
we have that too.
Gurgly, I can't explain it, like this gurgly sound, like a hum, but it's not a sound.
So does Cooper, and I can't describe it. It sounds like it's kind of like an animal. Like he does this sound.
Yeah, like he's clearing his throat, kind of, but I don't know. I don't know what it is, but he does that when he's nervous, and he'll start rocking back and forth, right?
Okay.
And so very noticeable. Very noticeable. And this lady in front of me turned around and patted his knee, and then smiled at him. And then she turned around and she patted my knee, and she says, "Mom, this is mine." And she pointed at her son next to her. Kate, it took everything in me not to just start crying.
I'm like crying right now, actually. I'm like, oh my God.
It was moments. It was that moment that I was like, I call him God winks, right? Like God knew it was going to be hard for us that day. He knew we were going to be in a stadium with all these people. He had already told somebody to shut up in a very not just shut up way. And I thought only he would place her with him next in front of us, right? Like I said, we had grandparents behind us and her in front of us, and it was like the perfect cage for him.
Yeah.
And so he left after they announced, and luckily our last name is Decker, in a class of almost 1,000 kids. So he went home with my in-laws and big brother, and I stayed and talked to that mom almost the rest of the night because her daughter's last name was Y, and met the son and chatted with him. And he works at HEB, which is a grocery store near us. And he works at Home Depot, and he does carts at one and checker at the other. And it was just great. I was like, this is my future. Like I can see this being his future. He lives with them. He lives, in a casita by their pool. So I was like, very similar if we could build that program, right, where you have a tiny home and like you said, surrounding services around you that provide to the community, but at the same time bring the residents income. That would be my
Well, so
ultimate.
here's the new thing that's happening because on Sunday, last Sunday, I went out with 10 of the Coops Troops moms, the all special needs
Yeah.
moms. We met in Rochester, which is about an hour away. We took a little road trip and drank and ate, and it was wonderful. But what came out of it was that it used to be that a person had their group home and then they had their day program and they didn't communicate.
Right.
What came from COVID, a huge change, was that the group home started creating day hab programs. So it was one and the same. And where I saw it firsthand is when I went to Ellis for Autism in Florida, which is the Cadillac. Let's be clear.
Yes.
Cadillac. They have this gorgeous home that's on the same property as the school. And the young adult men that live there walk to the school, and there's a whole like area where they have their day hab program and they learn and do different skills. And I wish I had it. It's been floating around my house, but they have this, they started this company, I guess, where they get shells and they put things on the shells, they make coasters, and it's all levels because like Cooper could definitely find shells.
Yeah.
And then, the higher functioning, however you want to word it, they may do the marketing or go to the farmers markets and sell. And it was like, how genius to have it all right there.
So I think we kind of have that with Liam's school right now.
Okay.
Because part of the school is residential, and it's a behavioral school. Let me set that record straight. It's a behavioral school run by a rehab facility.
Okay.
But they have a day school in it. And the day school, like Liam goes on Fridays, they go to the recycling center and do recycling.
That's what I want for Cooper.
Yeah. And they just do recycling. They sort through the cans and stuff.
Does he like it?
He loves it.
I bet Cooper would love that.
He calls it Green Guys. We go to Green Guys, Mom. Went to Green Guys today. He loves it. So can we build something like that specifically for kids on the spectrum and then closer to us, obviously, because it's the only one like that in this area.
Well, and here's the overwhelming part. And I can say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my soul. I want to be the mom. Do I want to be going 5 days a week to the recycling center, to the grocery store? Maybe now when I'm younger, but when I'm 60, do I want to do that? No.
And I'll tell you why. So the more my older kids get older and they're now, in college and going to graduate college and all of these things, they have their own lives and they live their own lives, but then they're going to get married and they're going to have kids and you're going to want to have time with the grandkids and do that stuff. And so it becomes the gap becomes too big, I think, for us to handle. And you want them to have their own life. I want him to do his own thing. And then we work.
And not have his old mom there. That's what I think. Like, so there's a mom in our Minnesota group. Her name is Gina. And I speak about her all the time because her son Carter is in kind of the setting that we're talking about right now. Here in Minnesota, it's a great, wonderful. And the thing that she says that it just really touched me is she's like, and Carter's nonverbal. He has no words. And she's like, he thinks we're boring. He thinks, it's what's funny about that is we'll take Cooper without the other kids.
Yeah.
He thinks we're boring.
Yeah.
And it's as he should. He is a boy. He's growing. Like,
yes.
I love that.
They shouldn't have to hang out with us. When they're teenagers, my boys, my older boys, I can't remember. My 21-year-old's coming home from college in August. He hasn't been home all summer. He's got an apartment at college and he's doing his thing and he's working, he's hanging out with friends and he don't want to come home, So I think Liam at some point will get to that point too, where he wants to be in his space. He wants his stuff with him and, his thing.
Well, that's like, so how do you be the Oz? Like, how do you know that he's safe? He has what he needs. He's getting the right care, but let him have freedom. And that's the unique, and we're called helicopter moms. There's refrigerator moms. So there's like negative terms, but it's like these kids are incredibly vulnerable. So we're walking the line.
Yeah.
What is it?
And it's hard. And then there's the different degrees, right? So you have the vulnerability of Cooper can't tell you. I have the privilege that Liam can. He comes home and tells me, what happened. And, yesterday he had a challenge at school and he had to go to the cool down corner. And he told me that. He
Oh, he
didn't tell me
did.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't tell me exactly how it went down. Like there was a lot of confusion. It had to do with a sausage wrap that he didn't get because he went to Green Guys. So I couldn't quite figure out what happened.
Obviously a very important thing. Yes.
Let me tell you, if you've never had a sausage wrap, which I never have, apparently the cook at school makes a mean sausage wrap with flour tortillas.
Oh, I love that.
And he did not get one. And so this morning I called the school. I'm like, can you walk me through what really happened yesterday? And she's like, I meant to email you last night. I forgot to hit send. And she's like, yes, he went to Green Guys. And by the time he got home, the sausage wraps were all gone. So he was offered a different lunch. And he had his heart set on the sausage wrap. And so, it did not go well from there. But but we still have to guard against both of them, right? His perception of what happened versus what really happens, or they can't tell you at all what happened.
Well, and our kids are very visually very similar, and I think have other similarities too, right? And it's like our biggest challenge right now is the social norms, and I'm sure you can relate a lot to that. You have the swearing, you have that sort of thing, but like. People look at Cooper and he's 5'8", he's 5'9", and they think that he should be acting a certain way. And, he's watching Barney on his iPad and dancing. Like the social norms part is hard. It's helping them navigate and kind of soften the edges to fit in here.
Yeah. And I think that's the hardest, right? Because like you said, they're big kids. I mean, I met Cooper. Liam and Cooper are, Liam's 5'5". So it's
I'm sure he'll catch up. How tall is your husband?
So Josh is only 5'11".
That's what Jamie is.
Yeah. And I'm only 5'3". So, I mean, he's already taller than me and he's a big kid, right? They're big kids. And so for an 11-year-old, like you said, the norms, when you go out in public, there's no question. Once you get out in public and he starts talking or saying things or even just verbally stimming, you immediately know that there's something different. And then you get both, you get
both sides.
And then you get the people that are like, control your kid. What's wrong with them?
I know. I didn't realize, I thought the toddler years were the hardest. And there are so many hard parts, like the eloping. But the thing is that it's still cute when it's a toddler.
Yeah. It's harder at this age.
It is. Okay, Cindy, what is your page? I love your pages so people can follow you, and I'll tag you too.
Okay. So my page is Autism with Your Shirt Off. I started it over COVID largely because the child will not keep his shirt on. Now he does a little bit better if we find the right soft shirts. But yeah, it's Autism with Your Shirt Off. We're just going to lay it out there and tell you our story.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing before we go, is he past the skin picking? Has that gotten better?
Yeah. So Liam, for those of you that don't know, Liam did a lot of skin picking. We went through a really bad stage.
We went through that too. Yeah.
Where it was, at one point we had to put him in the hospital for the day or go in to get antibiotics because he had 36 open lesions on his body.
Well, what happens for people is that you can get staph, you can get different infections. So when Cooper gets a wound, and it could be a mosquito bite, we have to be so careful because it can really quickly turn into something serious.
So right now he's got 2 little ant bites on his ankle and he's already starting on it, but he's better. Okay. Yeah, he's better. It's just 2 right now. But yeah, there was times, I don't know if you remember, we had pictures where he had them all over his face and
it's heartbreaking.
It's hard to watch. It's so hard to watch. And then too, like even in school, he's got blood on his hands and, it just gets.
Did you ever have one of the things that I think is the hardest? So we have toenails, but in the winter, Cooper will pull the skin off his lips.
Liam does the same thing. He does the lips.
It is so hard to watch. And you just so then when he'd fall asleep, I would just smother them with different things. And
I did sugar scrubs. Do you do sugar scrubs?
No.
I did sugar scrubs, like these little lip balm sugar scrubs.
Okay.
That you buy it I don't know, this one's a friend of mine makes these, but I'll send you.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would just, because it's sugar and sweet and they're like lip balm, and I would just rub them on his lips and then we would just wash it off so that it's the hardest. And you know what helped us? That was you, because we kept going to the doctor and saying we need to change its anxiety medications. We stopped all ADHD meds. It was not ADHD. It was anxiety medications, and they wouldn't try Prozac. We tried everything else, but because there was a swab test that said that he wasn't compatible with it.
Okay.
And I was like, can we please, I need to try Prozac. Like, I've seen other kids that act just like him and it works. Let me try it. And the minute, it's like you said, the minute we put him on Prozac, it was like you could see his body just
relax.
Yeah. Like, he'd calm, he'd watch TV, he would sit through things. It was
life-changing for him.
Life-changing.
I will say the skin picking. So we know, it's interesting. People are like, how do you know if a med is working when you have a child who's non-speaking, or, different questions like that. And we worried about that too. So we started, our baseline of Prozac, and we've had to increase the dose twice. And each time it's been skin picking and nail picking that's told us. And then we actually just had an experience like a month ago where he started to remove a nail, and I was like, ooh, do we need to go back? And then it got better. So I check Cooper's feet. I was going to write about this again, because I check his feet and his nails and his body every day. And yesterday I was putting his socks on him, and he lifted his feet up to, like, I was kneeling down, like he kind of lifted him up to eye level, and he's like, because the nails were clean.
Yeah.
And he was so proud that he hadn't.
Yeah. Liam's the same. He'll tell you, he like, I didn't pick my ant bites today, because it's so hard for them. It's so hard.
They can't stop.
And they get to that age too, right now too, Kate, where you're seeing that disparity in age. Like we went to, I wrote about it last week. I went to Target last weekend, and there was these two girls his age going into 6th grade. They were talking about going in 6th grade, going into the middle school and picking out their Trapper Keeper or their binder and their backpack and just giddy and giggling. And I was like, I had to leave Target. I was like, I'm just going to check out with what I have. And I cannot watch this right now.
It hurts too much.
Yeah. Because we start seeing that gap in age. Those are the hard things at this age, I think, is that social norm. And then watching the gap when you see another child that age, you're like,
well, and when you live in your bubble, I don't have that. But then over the 4th, there were 2 different instances. We were around 12-year-old girls, 2 different 12-year-old girls. And 12-year-old girls are like talking to you. I mean, they may have some giddiness in them or some silliness, but the one girl, Brooke, I was talking to, we were talking about like the beach and like plans. And it's like, it was unbelievable. And I actually said to her, I'm like, how old are you? I forgot. And she's like, 12, I'm going into 7th grade. And I had to step back.
Yeah.
Because it was like, ouch.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to lean into that, like, and talk about it like this, because it's real.
It's real. There's something there. And I have older boys, and I'm like, I just don't remember where they should be for some reason. I think I'm just blocking it out.
I know. Okay, girl, I won't keep you any longer. I'm going to tag your page. Everyone give her a follow.
And then coconut. I see a couple of comments about coconut and sugar. Coconut oil and sugar. There you go. Make your own.
Yes. If your kids struggle with the skin picking thing, follow Cindy. She's, it was just nice to know someone else that was kind of challenging or going through the same challenges. So, okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.